Okay, welcome to the next video, and in this one we need to get this operation finished off. So last time we roughed out this part and we moved on ready for surfacing. So we created a couple of bodies. You can see we've got a surfacing body, roughing body and a main link body. They will come into play in this lesson now. So let's just quickly double check what we did. So if we run this all the way through, move the IPW on. Okay. So this is what we were left with. So it looks like we roughed out to 1/2 mil all over. Still need to punch these holes through the smaller diameters. So what we're going to go through in this one then, we need to finish these top faces, these planar faces. We need to finish the holes. And we need to do this surfacing. And that's pretty much it. Everything that we can do from this side anyway. So now we need to think about the order that we do this in. So the way that I see this would be, I want to get these planar faces done. I want to finish this top hole early as well because it's not important. This is just clearance hold, this part, the counterbore. This hole we'll leave to the very end because it's tied up. The surfacing we also need to do. So the way I'm thinking we're going to do this then is we'll put the planar faces on. Then we'll do the countersinks because we could probably use the same tool. Then we'll tackle the surfacing and then we'll finish the holes. That's the order that I see this. Okay, so let's start thinking about these top faces then. So what tool would be best to do that? Well, I also know that I need to do this counterbore, so it needs to be a sharp tool. We can't have a radded tool because we need to make sure we get this nice sharp corner here. So let's just check the diameters here. So we got a 10.5 mil hole there, a 6 mil hole there, which means this land is 2.25 mil. So, which is fine. We can use a pretty small tool because the way I think about this, because we need to put this hole in, or we need to rough this hole out at least for the reamer, we're going to use an end mill. You could use a drill, but personally I don't like drilling and then reaming holes straight away. I like to drill and then true it up with some sort of an end mill because reamers tend to follow the drilled path. So if your drill's wandered, then you're going to get a wandered hole. So yeah, so and if we use an end mill to do this, then we can also use the same end mill to finish this non-important counterbore and this top face. So that's why I see this all being done together. So if this is a 6 mil hole, then I'm going to use a 4 mil end mill. And the reason for that is because we saw this hole doesn't exist yet. So this is just a normal counterbored hole with 0.5 on the floor and 0.5 on the wall. If we used a tool that was bigger than this hole, so this hole is 6 mil. If we used a tool which is anywhere bigger than 6 basically, then you'd have to sort of spiral from the top down the hole because otherwise you'll plunge into the floor stock and then come out, but it's not that efficient. So what I like to do is I would use a 4 mil end mill, plunge straight to depth here, and then do a circular motion rather than a helical motion to finish this, so you can do it in one pass that way. We still obviously need to do a helical tool path to put this hole in the beginning. So let's go ahead and create that tool. So we need an end mill. So insert tool, planar, end mill, and we'll call this 4 mil. Finishing, something like that. This is just going to be a very basic tool. 4 mil, no radius, no tip. Length, say probably about 50 mil. Flute length is probably around 12. So let's say it's a free fluted alley end mill. Relief diameter, it's not important. And this tool number would be 2. Don't need to worry about a shank really. Not for this. Okay, so we have our tool. Looks okay. Tool number 2. Okay. So we need to create another group. So I'm going to create a group, and I'm going to just call it something like planar. Something like that, planar finishing. Sort of makes sense to me, might not to you, but you can go with the same if you like, or anything that you want. Kind of makes sense to me because, yeah, this is planar face, these are planar holes. I mean, yeah, because other than that, it's going to be the surfacing, which is just going to be a surfacing folder, and then the finishing of these critical holes. So planar finishing sort of makes sense to me. So what we're going to tackle first, probably these top faces, kind of makes sense. So let's go ahead and do that. So there's obviously many of different toolpaths we could use to do this sort of stuff. I show you the one that sort of makes the most sense on paper, which would be probably a floor facing without wall. So this is probably what you guys, if you were to flick through all of this, this is the one that would make the most sense at face value. So the tool we're going to use is the 4mm, and we want this on the main body, and the method is going to be finish. Okay, so let's start going through this dialog box. So the cut area for the floor is going to be this, 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 and this. The pattern, so few options we could play with it. Profile makes sense. What I like to do here is I like to sort of follow, I don't really know how to describe it, but I like to follow the way the part looks. So as this is like a circle, rather than like zigzagging across this, I would like to follow this out and do a circular pattern also. So I'm going to start on profile and see what I get with that. So part stock 0, we want to finish, so nothing. With a blank here, I always like to use thickness because I can just determine, then I know I've left 0.5 mm on there. You can also have it on 3D IPW, but the problem with this is if you get into the habit of using 3D IPW, which should automatically detect what stock level you've got, it can get a little bit slow depending on your file size. So if you're working on a big file, when you have this ticked, it can be a little bit slow. So I just like to just define it as 0.5 mm in here. This is not relevant for now. So obviously we're going to follow the same philosophy of let's just get a toolpath working and we'll go from there. So geometry, nothing to change here because we selected it in the other dialog window. Tool axis. So this is a nice feature, normal to first face. So it recognizes the direction of the face and you don't have to select a tool axis, which is pretty good. Feeds and speeds. So rally, probably like 10,000, not 100,000. That'll blow the spindle up. And 1,500, something like that. Maybe a bit less because it's only a small area, I guess. Cut regions, this isn't too important yet. We can play with that if we need to, because we might need to play with this overhang. Strategy, set depth offset. It's fine. Moving, might need to look at, but that looks okay. Connections, fine. Engage. Okay, let's see what this gives us then. The part cannot be faced at any level. Good start. So rather than profile then, let's try follow part. Okay. Giving us something. Not the prettiest, it's giving us something. So obviously these are sort of like wasted cuts here because we know we've roughed out this center already, which isn't ideal. So we can try and manipulate this a bit more now. So how could we manipulate this? So we can see it starting on the outside on the way in. which we don't really want. So let's try inside out. Where is that? Yeah, you can see it starts to like, although this is the toolpath it looks like you should use, this is why the more and more you start to use NX, the more you start to realize, although there are 10 different toolpaths to do the same thing, there are certain ones which is better than others. So what I'm going to show you now is like how I look at this. So as I only want to do one pass around this outer edge, I'm going to use just planar finishing, planar milling, which is this one. So planar mill, at least then I can really control the toolpath. So the part boundaries. So this is going to look a little bit odd, but you can see how this outside shape, although it really doesn't matter whatsoever and it would be totally fine, but if I followed this outside shape, I'll show you as an example. Okay, so if I follow this outside shape, these are really minor things. The tool size is going to be on the inside of this circle. The plane we can specify as half a mil above, because we know that's where our stock is. Although we're going to do one pass anyway, so it's not really relevant. But okay, and we can do profile because we just want one pass essentially. This is irrelevant because we don't have any additional passes in there. And then if we just add our tool axis, we should get something. Oh, we need to do the floor as well, sorry. But we know our floor is there. Okay, so this gives us a toolpath, which is getting closer to what I want. But what you'll see here is, you see these strange little moves. It's not a perfect circle. And I don't like that. These are such small things. I can't even describe how small these are, but this is the sort of stuff that bugs me because I want this to be one nice smooth circle here. And you can see this isn't a smooth circle. And that's coming from this chamfer. You can see, like, looking down on this, that we haven't got a perfect circle here. We've got some strange shapes because of the chamfers. So how I like to select these is, rather than selecting that outside one there, I will select the inside one. Like this. So I'll go and do all of them. Okay. So this is looking better. Now we've got a nice perfect circle. But obviously the toolpath looks a bit janky. You know, it's not ideal. We don't want a sharp corner here. We want it to be nice and smooth. So now we can start tweaking it a little bit. So if I drop the tool on here, you can see we need an offset. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a part stock. I'm just going to say -3 mil. Okay, that looks better. That looks like what we want. It's overhanging, which is good. Now you got to remember we're going to have half a mil of stock here. So this is pretty close. We can maybe do 3.3, something like that. Go a little bit more. Minus. Okay. So this could be good. Now I'm happy with where our tool lies on the face. I need to sort these approaches out because I don't like that. So let's go ahead into non-cut moves. Let's do an arc. And let's go a lot smaller than that. Say 3 mil. Maybe 2 mil. And we don't want any height, because so the height is driving this here, but we don't want that because we want to be approaching in free space essentially. So let's drop that all the way down. But if I wrap it down now, we're going to hit that 1/2 mil stock on top. So what we need to do is I need to add an extension. Oh, that's extending up. Oh, it might be because it's 50 mil. So that's a little bit too much. And that's a little bit too less. And that looks about right. So the tool's going to wrap it down onto that point there. And if we actually want to make this a bit smaller, what we could do is we could swing this around a little bit. So we could use this arc angle. Currently we are at a perfect 90 degrees. So where it approaches here on the tool path, we have got a perfect 90-degree approach. But if we tighten that up a little bit, what it will do is it can bring it round to like here. Well, if we go 120 here, you can see how it's brought that round a bit nicer. So this is starting to look a bit better now. So this looks, I'm happy with that now. I like that. I like how we're engaging on there. So straight down to depth, and then we can start feeding on and around. And we want to make sure we have a very slight overlap, which it looks like we do. We can just check that in here. Oh, okay. Let's add a small overlap to there. You can see how that's extended this overlap distance here. Okay. I like that. That's good. Okay, so then the next bit we want to sort out is this traverse distance. It's too high for my liking. Change that down to say 5 mil. Let's arc those corners a little bit. Smooth transfer corners. That's 3 mil. So now this is starting to look like a really nice toolpath. The next thing is I just want to do this in 2 passes. You know, I want a nice semi-finished pass and a finished pass. So let's go ahead and add depth here. And if we say that, so this is going to look a little bit odd. So rather than that, let's just do user defined. So if we go into the part boundaries and where we specified our plane here at 1/2 mil, I think somewhere. If I change this to 0.2, so essentially we lie into it here. This is just something that I find easier to do. I'm just going to lie to it, and I'm going to say our top plane is 0.2 above, and then if you do 0.1 depths of cut, what you essentially end up with is 2 passes at 0.1 and 0.1. So your first pass will leave 0.1 on the floor, and then your second pass will actually finish it. But now it's only doing 1 set of them, which is strange. I think it's because this automatic didn't apply to all of them. If I just re-specify the plane for all of them by highlighting them all at once. There we go, we get them all back now. So this is going to go around and it's going to do a level at a time. Is there any way we can change this so it does depth first? There we go. So now what we're going to get is it's going to come down to 1. It's going to come on, roll around, come off, go to its next depth, and then roll around and come off again. So it's amazing that you can see that the first toolpath we actually had was totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that first toolpath. It was great. It would have done the job, and it probably wouldn't make a difference whatsoever to the final product of the part. But what I want to do now is this first pass, it's rolled around and it's ready to go down again, but I don't like this traverse to the next depth. So what I'm going to do is in our transfer and rapid, this is going to be a within region move now. So I'm going to change the within regions to be a direct move. So now you can see, rather than coming up and over, it's rolling around. It's rolling all the way around the face, sorry. It's approaching, rolling around the face, coming off the face, and then rather than lifting up and over, it's directly moving to its next point, which is pretty cool. And that would probably look maybe even better if we did a slightly longer minimum clearance. You know, it just brings it a little bit closer together, I guess. And that is nice. I like that. I'm really happy with that now. There's nothing else I'd like to change other than speeds of feeds. I think we said 10,000. 100 again. I've got a bit of an issue with my keyboard at the minute where it double types everything. We say 1400 in that. Okay. So that is a finished toolpath in my opinion. I think that's nice. Okay, so now that top face is finished, we need to think about this face here and this hole. So as we need to rough this hole out, that's what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to punch through there. So we already created our holes here. So we got the hole feature group. So we can just go ahead and use that same one. I'm just going to copy this, paste it inside, change the tool, because that is obviously looking at the 6mm, change it to the 4, and you can see we've still got these holes picked up here. So as we aren't looking at this hole anymore, we're now looking at this second one. You can see we have the machining area option here, and you got all of the stuff attached to this hole feature. So you can see you got cylinder 2, which is what the one we're interested in, but you can also see it picks up the chamfers. So we've got the top chamfer there and this top chamfer here. But for us, we're interested in the cylinder here. So we don't want any bottom stock anymore because this is now a through hole. And the interesting thing here is I want to punch these holes all the way through. And I say that because I actually want to use this middle hole to date them off for our second op. So when we flip over, I want you to be able to pick up off this center hole. I want you to be able to clock that in and call that your X0, Y0. So in order to do so, we need to make sure we drill or mill, sorry, all the way through this part. So I'm going to say the side stock ready for reaming now. So rather than changing it here, let's do that so it's all inherited. So rather than just manually changing that, which isn't good practice, I'm going to change the method group like so. Okay, so now we're looking at the right hole. We got the right side stock. You can see this has been locally defined, so I'm going to re-inherit that so it picks up that 0.1 again by clicking the lock. Okay, so we're leaving 0.1 on the wall ready for reaming. It's a through hole. That's about all we need to do there. We're going to helical do this. Okay, geometry, we don't want any cutter comp. 14,000, that should be fine, but we need to go a little bit slower on the feed now because this is a bit of a smaller hole. Let's say 200. The pitch, let's drop that a little bit. 0.2. Pass is 1, so that's fine. The actual pass, if you remember from the last one. So the top offset, so we know there's 0.5 mil stock on the floor here, so if we go 0.75, we should be safe. And this is the important one, this bottom offset here. So let's just generate that and see what we get. So yeah, it's a decent toolpath. We just need to make sure that we break these holes all the way through. So what I'll do is I'll sort of roughly look at this direction, which there's a couple of ways you can like orientate the axis. You can either just press this here, you know, press this square to orientate it, which is pretty easy to be fair, and it's probably easier than the way I normally do it. I normally just hit F8. As long as you're looking roughly at that orientation, you can just hit F8 and it'll just do that for you. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep changing this bottom offset until I see it come all the way through. So 10's all the way through. Is 9? 9 isn't. 9.5 is. So that's where I'm going to be at, 9.5. Let's just go 10, just for good measure, because you never know. Because we're going to chuck reamers down there anyway, so yeah, we're breaking all the way through. Let's just drop our tool in at the bottom, make sure we're safe. Yeah, we got plenty of room. Okay. So anything else that I don't like about this? Probably just these traverses just not being smooth. That's about it, probably. It's better. Okay. But that's pretty much it for that toolpath. I think there's not much more I'd like to look into there. So now the last stage is to finish this top counterbore. So again, I'm just going to use this same toolpath. Paste. Now we still want the same tool, but we're looking back at cylinder 1, and our side stock is going to be 0, so we need to change that to finish in here in our method group. Okay, so now 0, 0. You can see this purple area is highlighting what the stock is currently at. This is pretty nice. It's a really quite nice tool actually, that you can just see that change automatically. It's pretty helpful. So you can see if our tool was bigger than this whole diameter and we just plunge straight to the floor, it's just going to like hit this super hard, and that's not going to be good for the tool. So by using a tool smaller than this diameter, we can go straight down to the middle, at the bottom, one cut round, and we're done. Okay, so rather than helical now, I'm just going to use circular, which is one pass basically. So if you just quickly hit generate on that, we can sort of see what's going on here. So you can sort of see it's done multiple passes here. So we just need to increase this step over. Radial step over. What's going on here then? Why have we got multiple passes still? %, 50%. That's that double. That's my keyboard doing a double typing again there. Feature has already been completely machined. Let's just look at our geometry. Okay. So we've picked it up correctly. Is our tool not big enough to actually machine this here? Should be. 6, 10, 4 mil. It's only 2 mil of land. It should be okay. But it's not liking something. Doesn't want to overwrite it. Let's try multiple. Just put number of passes as 1. Okay, so we can get around it that way. I'm not sure. It's like bit bugging out a little bit there in terms of why I can't set it here. Yeah, for some reason it just wants to keep using the different value. Yeah. Oh, I'll just put it on multiple. It'd be interesting to see how that comes out for you guys. So I'll just put multiple and just do one pass rather than many more. We don't want any more than that, to be fair. That should be fine. Okay, so that looks good. What would I like to change about this? I want to add cutter comp for a start. So cutter comp, I want to add it to all passes. It's not, I guess this is only a clearance hole actually, so I don't think cutter comp is important here, to be fair, because this is just a countable clearance. It's not tied up, so I don't actually think we need cutter comp. I think that'll be a bit overkill. I'm going to keep cutter comp off, but now I'm going to slow this down because we're finishing in one pass now. I'm going to bring this down to about 6,500. And the feed pretty slow. Although it looks really slow on here, the actual time won't be that slow. So the actual time is currently 1 minute, which is not a lot really to do 5 holes. But what I'd like to add, so currently this is going to drop into the hole, roll around once, and then come off. What I've seen a lot of people do in the past is they'll just copy this and paste this and go, that's my spring cut. So like, oh, I'm spring cutting it, which is just cutting it again to make sure you can size it or it's sized nicely. But how I like to do this is actually in here, if we go to the overlap, you can see we can set an angle here. So if I set an angle of, let's say, 45 degrees, what you'll see is the tool will come on, it'll roll around, and then it'll do an extra 45 degrees. So I'd imagine if I hit generate now, it should finish around my cursor. Yeah. So this is how I add my spring passes. So I'm going to put 365. So just 5 degrees past another full rotation. So this will go, it'll come on, it'll roll around once, roll around a second time, go 5 degrees past the beginning, and then roll off. So that's nice. Okay, and that's this hole completely done. And that is the planar. Is that the planar done? No, we need to chamfer these holes really. So let's look at doing that now. Yeah, let's get a little chamfer tool. Probably just a 6mm chamfer tool, be fine. Say 16mm, 0, chamfer length of 3. 45 degrees, length of D, loop length of 3. Okay, this will be tool 3. Now rename it to 6mm tool. Okay, so again, multiple ways to chamfer a hole. You would expect nothing less by now. Let's have a look at a few of those types. So if we go into hole making, we can see we should have an option in here for chamfering. So here, you know, again, filter through these, you could sort of figure out your own way, but if you hover over this, this looks like it's the right one, hole chamfer milling. So we'll do this. The tool we're going to use is the chamfer tool, main link body. Actually, not main link body, we want the holes. Because we want it to pick up the geometry of the hole. And we're going to finish. So let's see what it's got. So currently we've got the top chamfer, which is fine. Let's do this top chamfer first. And you can see you can drive it a few different ways. So we can either drive to the tip of the tool, the shoulder, or the chamfer. I always recommend just driving to the tip, and then that way we can just set a 1mm offset, so it's going to be 1mm deep from the top face, I think. Geometry's fine, that's fine. Speed, let's say 6,000, and 750. Distance, so we don't want any sort of, we've just finished that top face, so I don't really think we need any extension. And let's just generate that and see what we get. Okay, so we've got a toolpath. It looks pretty good. It's pretty clean. Decent start, to be fair. Not bad. Let's just sort them traverses out. Okay, that's pretty simple, to be fair. Not much detail to go in there. We just want to rinse and repeat now for the lower chamfer. This is where it might get a little bit interesting with the depth, because it's quite a big chamfer for this small gap, if you know what I mean. So we'll just change it from this top chamfer to the top chamfer 2. So now you can see it's picked up this little bit. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it is only showing you the stock that's left in this hole. So this is showing us now that all of the walls finished, all of the sort of floors finished, and it is just picking up this little bit of chamfer here, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's just hit generate and see what we get. So you can see we're pretty close to the wall. A little bit close for comfort, I would say. Just a touch. So the way we can drive this is by just saying, I only want to go 0.5 mil deep. And that should bring it up a touch. Some collisions were not cut because, oh sorry, deeper. That way, yeah, the tool goes lower, which should keep it away from the wall a bit like that. Yeah, that's nice. The only difference I would say now is I'm going to slow the feed down relatively to what I did on the last one, because on the last one we're moving around in this bigger area, whereas now we're moving around in this smaller area. So I'm going to bring the feed down to say 400. Okay, nice. So now the chamfer's done. So it's good that this one's done because that's prepared for the reaming, which means we can just come straight in with a reamer now. Like we don't have to deburr it or anything, which is nice. Yeah, I think we're ready to surface now. Do the main bits of surfacing. I might end up splitting this into 2 lessons actually, because it is been quite a long one already. I think we're already half an hour in, so yeah, might split this up into 2, but so be it. Let's see where we get to. Okay, so let's add another group. I'm going to call this one surfacing. Delete everything out of here now. So what tool am I going to use for this? I'm going to use 2. I'm going to use a semi-finishing tool and a finishing tool, and they're both going to be 6mm ball noses. And the reason, 4mm ball noses, and the reason for that is because all of these rads in the corners are 3.2mm. So if I use the 6mm, it's going to be a bit squealy in these corners. It's a bit too close for comfort. A 5mm to me is a bit of a irregular ball nose. I mean, 6s and 4s are quite common. I'd say 5s are less common. And the 4 will just allow a little bit more movement in here. Always, whenever you're finishing corners like this, you want to have free movement with the tool. You don't want it like juttering in the corners, like being sharp, if you know what I mean. So I would like to just go down a little bit more to a 4. So let's go ahead and add some tools. Ball nose. I'm going to call it 4mm. Let me finish. Maybe 4. 3. Doesn't matter. It's going to be tool 4. And I'll copy that, paste. and just call it finish. So we got a 4mm ball nose semi-finish and a 4mm ball nose finish, and this needs to be a different number of 5. Okay. So how are we going to approach this then? So I would always recommend finishing the corners before you finish the main surfacing, and this is because the main bits of surfacing are the bits that everybody sees, and the corners obviously people see as well. But if you do it the other way around, what you will end up with is, if I go ahead and we try and finish these longer bits first rather than the corners, as you go to finish the longer bit, when it hits the stock in this corner, it can squeal a little bit and chatter, and that chatter may be deeper than the stock that is on there already. So then when you come to finish this away, you can actually be left with little diggings and chatter marks. So the way I like to do it is I'll do pretty much a semi-finished pass around the whole thing and try and get it to like 0.1, something like that. And I'll also take this flow cut to 0.1 first. So a flow cut will be the operation that we use to just get rid of these corners first. I'll take that down to 0.1. Then after that, I'll then take down this longer area to 0.1. And then after that, I'll come ahead and I'll finish the corners first, and then go and finish the mains. And this should give us a nicer finish. And then I'll top it off by finishing these chamfers. And again, following the same mantra as before, where the patterns are so important, and they're not important to a inspection point of view, essentially. I mean, they could be, I guess, in certain cases, but you know, you could go ahead and just zigzag this in one direction in one toolpath, and it might be fit for use, I guess. But I like to really just take my time with the toolpath, and I want to flow with the part. So, for example, the way I would like to surface this would be to these outer ring faces. So these sort of, these outer circle ones, I want to finish in a cut pattern that follows this round. So I don't want to go in one direction like this. I don't want to go in one direction like this. I want to like follow this. And then the same here. I want to follow it in X. And then these ones, I want to follow the grain in Y. Okay. The bit that gets complicated is these rads, because I still want to follow them out really. So that means, rather than like a flow cut which would do like this zigzag pattern up and down it like this, like a follow periphery sort of move, I want to flow out with it. I want this rad to still follow how this pattern's going to be also, and this will make more sense as we dive into it, but I'll show you what a flow cut will do here. And I am going to use a flow cut still, but only for semi-finishing. When I come to actually finish this, I'll probably do it at the same time as I do this, I think. So anyway, let's get into it a bit more. So first of all, we need to make sure we got the right body selected. So I'm going to turn off my link body, and I'm going to turn on my surfacing body. So these are the ones we made the cuts in earlier, because we only need to finish half of this, because we obviously need to flip it over. So enough talking, let's start putting some more toolpaths down. So inside here, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call this flow cuts 0.1, and that just means this is going to house the flow cuts, and these flow cuts are going to a stock level of 0.1. Then after that, I'm going to finish surfacing. Main surfacing, I guess, if that makes sense. Main surfacing, I guess it makes sense. Yeah, we need to get rid of the corners, then finish the mains. then add the chamfers basically. Then add another one, and I'll call this chamfers, something like that. Kind of, yeah, makes sense to me, but that might be weird, I don't know. Okay, let's add an operation then. So again, there's multiple ways to do this, but for me, a flow cut is a good start. It's a good start to get rid of these corners. So when we look at flow cutting, we have these here. So we've got flow cut single, flow cut multiple, and flow cut reference tool. So yeah, a flow cut single will only do one pass. As you can sort of see in the picture there, it'll do one pass around a corner. Again, useful in certain situations, but not in most. Flow mill multiple is pretty good, and you can select the cut area that you want to mill, and then you can say do an extra 10 passes per side or something. And then the one that I like to use is flow mill reference tool. So you can choose a 4mm bore nose, and you can say an 8mm bore nose came in here before, do all the work that you need to do, but do no more. Which is good because most of the time you'll always have a different bore nose that went in beforehand. So I like to use reference tool. So that's what we're going to do here. So it wants to go inside that program. It's going to be this semi-finished bore nose. The geometry is going to be surfacing body. And we're going to semi-finish. Okay. So now I want to choose all of the cut area that I want to flow cut. I mean, normally a pretty good start when it comes to this is you could select the whole part, I guess, to save yourself like, well, I'll show you when we come to it. So the reference tool, we don't actually have any tools in here. So what I'm going to do just quickly is I'm going to create a dummy tool. And this is just so we've got something to reference. I'm going to say add a tool in here, a bore nose. I'm going to call it dummy ref 7mm. And this is because I know this is a 6mm rad corner. So by saying 7mm, it's going to finish anything that the 7mm couldn't, which is basically just all of it. But if you put like 20mm in here, then your flow cut's going to extend like massively beyond what needs to be done. So I'm just going to say 7 and just see what that comes out like. And then all you need to change in here is just put 7mm there. That's pretty much it. So I can just leave that now. But what that allows me to do is I can select that tool here now. This dummy ref. So I can select that. Overlap distance. Let's just put that to 0 for now, and I'll show you what that does. Steep angle. I'm just going to say nothing is steep. Then I can turn the steep cutting off. Okay. So what pattern do we want to do? We want to do let's try a zigzag first. And the pattern that we want to do is you want to start on the outside and work your way in, because then you're rapiding onto non-existent stock and you're slowly working into the stock, whereas if you start in the middle, you're plunging into the stock and working your way out, which isn't ideal. So we want to do an outside in alternate strategy. You can see the other strategies here. You can sort of see the line tells you what it's going to do. This is what I think is the best. It sort of helicals its way in, which is pretty cool. So step over. So in terms of percentages, I always think 15 is a really good roughing percentage, 7 is a pretty good semi-finish, and 3% is a good finish. That's how I look at my bore noses. Okay, geometry. So let's try this cut area trick. So rather than, what I could do is I could just go and select this. It's not too much of work really, but if you want to become an efficient programmer, you need to think about like how you can get around stuff like this. This is like a little glitch. This has been in NX for so long. If you ever get that, just press home and then it'll fix it. Okay, so yeah, I could go around, I could start selecting it all, but let's just select everything and see what it figures out that it actually needs to do. So I'm going to go body faces and just select this. Okay, so our cut area is done. Tool axis is Z. Let's say 14,000 and 2,800. So strategy, this will become important in the future. But for now, I don't think it will be. Just leave that on, and we can leave smoothing on. So when you can, on some toolpaths, you can smooth the connections. So you can automatically connect them. If it sees traverses, it'll connect them with smoothing connections, which is, it can be really good in certain situations, and this is probably one of them if needed. So let's just reduce these tolerances a little bit. This will have an effect on the toolpath. And this check safe geometry, just bring that to 0 to begin with, and we can increase that if we need. So let's just generate that and see what we get. Nothing. Not ideal. So why are we getting nothing? Is it because it thinks it can finish it with the 7mm tool? No. Let's turn collision checking off. Just because it might be trying to do something stupid. No. Must be to do with... Must be to do with this reference tool. Let's increase this to 10. Still nothing. What could it be? What have we got set? Oh, steep angle. Yeah, it's because I've got the steep angle set to 0 degrees, which is effectively saying everything is steep. And I've got steep cutting turned off. So this needs to be set to 90 to say everything is not steep. Yeah, now we're getting something. But you can see how it's playing a part now, where with so it's pretty close to be fair, but it is seeing something in here that we don't want it to see. So let me go ahead and change that reference tool back to what we originally wanted it to be, which was 7. Okay, not bad. But obviously I don't want these moves inside this hole because this is just silly. It might be because I've got the collisions turned off. Let's put collisions back on now, because we figured out what the problem was. Okay, so now we are still getting them moves inside. I quite like everything else though. I mean, it's not a bad roughing pass. Well, roughing / semi-finishing pass, let's say. So we just need to get rid of those inner ones. So how can we do that? Well, we could go into the geometry and we could change this by just highlighting, by holding shift. Okay, well, let me try that again. Single face. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like if I try and get rid of that, it's just gonna deselect all of it. So a different way to do it then would be, we could add trim boundary, and we could trim the inside of all of these circles. So by trimming the inside of the circle, you're telling it not to do anything inside of them circles, essentially. That's good. That's what we wanted. And the reason why I showed you this way of doing it, rather than selecting the faces that you actually want to cut, which is fine on, you know, if you've got smaller parts like this and you know exactly what you want to cut. But on bigger jobs, this will save you so much time, just learning little tricks like this, just selecting the whole part and letting it figure out like what it actually needs to do. We sort of figured out that it was doing some small cuts in here we didn't want, and we could trim that out by just doing the trim boundaries like I showed you. So it's a pretty neat way of doing it, and I'm happy with this. I think this is pretty good. The only thing I'd like to change is the traverse as usual. Okay, pretty good. And maybe lower. No, I'll leave it. It looks good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's our 0.1 semi-finished cut. Now we need a toolpath to do the mains, essentially. This is going to become interesting now, I think. So there are a couple ways we could do this. What instantly comes to my mind is, well, for the fixed axis guided curves would be perfect, because I can control this here. I can control the first guide, which would be here, and the second guide, which would be there, which forces the toolpath to do this nice profile. The problem that comes with that is if I'm coming to surface this face or any of these tubed faces, I don't want the toolpath to start at this corner, for example, because as soon as that ramps on or it arcs on, it's hitting stock, but potentially more stock than you want it to. Whereas if you start from the middle, like here, and work your way down, and then work your way down the other side, that way you'll never cut this chunky bit of stock first, because it's a ball nose, you're going to end up using some of the flute potentially that isn't a ball nose. But I guess it's actually not that big of a deal here because it's such a small part. Let's have a play. I'll show you both ways. I'll show you a few ways actually. So let's do mill contour to start with. We'll do fixed axis guided curve. So this is such a powerful surfacing toolpath, and I love this one. So that's all good. Surfacing body's good. Yeah, I'm just going to add actually. Copy that, paste. I'm going to call this main surfacing. Main surfacing finish. Okay. Now when you open your surfacing folder, it's pretty clean to see. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what we can do here. So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly because I'm going to try a few different methods. So let's try this as our cut area, which is what we want. And also we actually do want these as well. Because I want to flow out all the way with that. So our first morphing pattern would be from we deselect that and I'll put it on single curves because we only want here. Okay, that's our first curve. So you can see this arrow, the direction. I need to reverse this because I want the toolpath to start at this side. So this is our first guide and it's going to start from this side. Our second guide would be on the inside. And because we're going to zigzag, it doesn't really matter the direction of this one because it will finish on whatever side it needs to. Okay. And this is going to be a zigzag because I want it to zig and zag all the way back. I'm going to go from guide 1 at 7% step over. Surfacing body, that's fine. This is fine. Let's bring these down just for now. Okay, this will be 16. Say 3000. Max step, we don't need to worry about that yet. Okay, don't need to worry about any of that. Don't need to worry about that. Let's hit generate and see what we get. Okay, so this is pretty nice. This is what I was expecting. You know, I would be relatively happy with this. It's a relatively nice looking toolpath. The downside to this toolpath is the fact that you would now have to copy this and paste it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it's not ideal. So yeah, this is the downside to this kind of a toolpath. It's lovely and it's really controllable, but yeah, this is the downside. Other than that, what other options do we have in here that we could play with? Could we potentially do an offset around mid pass? Would that look at the middle of this and offset around it, which would be actually what I'd want? No. Not really. Yeah, so like I say, this is as good as I could probably get with this toolpath. The next type of toolpath, which has some benefits to it, would be area mill, which I'm not sure it's called area. Contour area, okay. So contour area, because the benefit to this is I can select all of these faces at once. So let's try that one. Semi-finished, that's all fine. So first of all, let's go and select our faces that we want to do, which is these. Is that everything? Oh, just a bit. Okay, that should be everything. So we've got all the areas selected that we want to do. And now we need to play around with it a little bit to see what's possible. So first of all, let's try non-steep. So this would be pretty normal stuff. We could do, let's try follow periphery first, and let's try outward, which should start in the middle and force its way around and out. Yeah, it's not too bad, but what I don't like about this is you can see this sort of odd pattern. It doesn't follow the shape of the part. It's not ideal. It's not what I want to do. Basically, I want to just follow it in one smooth stroke rather than doing this sort of boxy looking path. This is a very traditional toolpath. You see this in many different softwares, and you see many people finish parts like this as well. And there's nothing wrong with it. It is fine. It'll do the job. It's done it all in one, which is helpful. But I think if we try and play around with the settings a little bit, so I don't think spiral is going to give us much. Zigzag, the problem with that is you're just going to get one direction for all of it. Yeah, which is now starting to look really messy. So let's try steep, because I think if we do steep, it'll always force it to start at the top, and it will also force it to... Will it force it to follow the direction? Interesting, let's see. And we do Z level zigzag. Let's see what this gives us. Ah, no. It's not what I'm looking for. It's not what I want, really. What else could do it? I do think, as much as a pain it is, I think this is exactly what I want. So because of that, I am just going to copy and paste this path. Well, actually, no, let's think about this. So we don't have to copy and paste this path, do we? We could actually instance it. So rather than copying and pasting and redoing these lines and stuff, let's instance this. So we can just basically mirror it or rotate it. So let's do that. So I don't know if I showed you this yet, but let's do object transform. So this is going to transform the toolpath. And there's a few options here, but we want to rotate it around a point. Our pivot point is going to be the center of the part, obviously. Our angle is going to be 90 degrees. Sorry, no, it's going to be 360 degrees. And we want to do this 4 times. So what move will do? Move will take this original toolpath and move it to here. Yeah? And it'll get rid of this, but it'll just transform it to over here. Copy will take a copy of this toolpath, transform it to here, here, and here, and break the link between them. So there's no link between them at this point. So you can change them individually. Instance takes the first toolpath and does the same as copy, but anything you change to the original toolpath will also update the instance ones. So this is the one that I find the best. So I can't remember if I want to do, if you do 90 in here. I don't remember if you do 90 or you do 360. And I think distance just put to 1, and then the number of instances we put to 4. Let's just make sure it's not 3. Yeah, so it's 3. So the number of instances we want to do is 3. Yeah. Okay, and we can hit OK to that. So now we've got these toolpaths here. Very nice. And we can do the same when we do the centerpiece as well. So now we only actually need to do one more toolpath for this center. So let's change the cut area to here and here. Okay. And our guides are going to change to new ones. We'll do single curve so we don't select everything. This is our first one. This is our second. Hit generate on that. Let's just double check. Nice. So yeah, I like that again. Going to instance that around. So object transform. Now we just need to select the middle one because it remembers what we did on the last one. Okay. Now we got these. And actually, so now instance comes into play because I want to change this traverse height. So I'll go ahead and change it on the first one. Okay, and that should go and update the rest of them. Yep. Perfect. I'll do the same one here. Okay. So that's all these ones done. Okay, so now I think we can move on to the next part of the surfacing. But one thing I'd like to show you is, it's interesting because you see how we have all of these toolpaths here and they are all separate. Oh, you know what? I don't think we can. No, forget that. Forget what I just said. But this, yeah, this is pretty nice still, I think. Pretty good. So let's run this through the simulation quickly and see what we've got so far. Starting from these two, which is new. Got a little bit ahead of ourselves without checking the simulations, really. So you can see actually, you see this little tiny little lip that's been created. That's because our toolpath that finished around these profiles actually went slightly too far over. So I need to reduce that a tiny bit. That's going and finishing the holes now. Chamfering them. And now we're starting the flow cuts. Speed that up. Okay, I mean, it's looking pretty good to me. Looking pretty good. We obviously have missed a little bit of surfaces in here. So one thing we need to quickly fix is this planar mill. It was too much, slightly too much. It was leaving that tiny little inner lip, which would be like here because of the stock left from the original toolpath inside the hole. So if we just bring this down a touch to 3.1, okay, that should fix that problem. Now this next problem we face is these faces, these inner faces. So here and here, here and here, and there's that problem again. Here and here as well. What would be the best way to do that? Maybe like a steep area mill. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Let's do that. So also in the main finishing then we add a steep area mill. So steep area mill, and we want it to only be steep. Everything over 0 degrees is steep, and we want a Z level zigzag at a depth cut of 7. And then we need to go and select all these pieces. So just that one, and this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. You see how my space ball isn't rotating around the center? You can see this little dot here, this blue dot. My space ball is currently rotating around this dot. I'll show you how to move that in a minute. It's annoying when I'm trying to move it around here. I think I've got everything there. So to move that little dot, if we just right click in space somewhere like over here, set reference rotation, I'm going to click there. So now when I rotate, it spins around that middle dot. Oh, let's go back to where we were. So I've set that it's going to be a steep cutting pattern. Tool axis is going to be the same. Let's say 1400 and 3000. Maybe 2.5 because it's a smaller area. 2. Strategy, this is not to worry about. Let's do smoothing connections. See what we get with this. Okay. Should be fine. That should be fine. Because I was thinking in my head, like, in the guided curves, I could select this face and extend the guide to here. But the issue that faces is the pattern for it. As it rolls around here, yes, it would be fine there, and it would blend to this quite nicely. But also, as it gets higher up here, it's going to follow this pattern. So you're going to get a diagonal line up here. So then when this toolpath over here blends out, it's going to be a weird match here because it's going to, it's going to be a bit odd. So really, with this sort of a toolpath that I've done here, although the top corners here would be like a straight line into a slightly diagonal line, I think that'll match up better than most. Because down here, it actually looked pretty good all the way to about here, this area. And now it starts to look a little bit odd because you're getting straight lines in this little tiny bit. And yeah, diagonal line here. But this is as close as I'm probably going to get to what I want. Okay. What is next? The main surfacing. So this is pretty easy now because I can just copy all this over. So because we've done the hard work here, I can just copy these toolpaths over, dump them in here. And now I can mass select all of them, go to the tool tab and just drag these under the finishing bore nose. So now these are all attached to the finishing bore nose. The next good bit you can do is I can mass select all of the fixed axis guided curves. I can mass edit them. It's going to edit all of them. Actually, thinking about it, no. Rather than doing that, we can just select all of them again, go to the machining method and drag them under finish. So now they're all finished and they're all the right tool. They haven't got the right step over. So now we can mass edit them. And we can give them all the right step over, which will be 3%. And also, we're going to change this max step value. This max step value, use it with caution. This is where you're going to get all your surface finish from. I'm going to bring that down to 5% of the tool. And this is going to give me a really nice surface finish. I think I've done a tech tip video on this channel explaining how this max step works, I believe. If I haven't, let me know in the comments and I'll do one, but this is really important. Something to note though, like the lower you put this, the more lines of code you're going to get once you post-process. So if you're having all of your surfacing down to really low, it will take slightly longer to post-process. And if you're doing a lot of surfacing, it'll take a lot longer to post-process, so bear that in mind. The reason why I didn't select this in the mass edit is you can only mass edit the same toolpath. So now I have to do this one separately. Okay, and now we can just hit generate on this whole folder. see it's actually taking a little bit longer to generate as well. So there we go. That's all of our finishing toolpaths essentially for this side. We now need to finish these chamfers, which are pretty simple. The only issue that I saw before was if I just click this toolpath and let's see what our stock looks like. So if I just highlight this, can I press this? That'll just bring me up what the stock looks like at this point. Because I think there's a little bit of stock in here, so if we finish this chamfer, it's just going to smash into some stock here. You see how we've still got some stock left here. So it's looking really good. It's pretty much finished from this side. It's just dug into the frame a little bit there, but nothing too much to worry about, to be fair. We can look into that. Where's that coming from? It's coming from here, I think. Oh no, not that. Is it the flow mill? No. Trying to see where that digging was coming from. Ah, yeah. Yeah, there it is. So that'll be this. We have to change the original toolpath here. And we can make this better by turning on the frame as check. So I'm going to add the frame to check, and that way it'll do its best to avoid it. But now you can see it's doing all that, and that's because there'll be a, although it says check stock of 3 there, here you can see it's 3 mil. So by pressing skip, it's just going to skip the toolpath when it's gouging, but I'm going to reduce the check down to 3 mil, down to 0 from 3 mil. There we go. That's better. Is that actually gouging the part? It looks like it's gouging the part. It does. Just moving on, see if it changes it. There we go. Oh, still a little bit there actually. I don't know if it is actually gouging or not. Let's do a quick check on it. We'll do a quick gouge check. Certainly looked like it was. It's not saying it is. It must have just been a graphical error. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, we have a little bit of stock here, don't we? That we need to look at. Because the other important thing about this is we're not just getting rid of the stock here, because we need to prepare some parting off geometry here. So we need to finish down to somewhere like here, and we need to give ourselves some parting off geometry. What would be the best way to showcase this? Probably to finish these faces now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get a sharp tool and I'm going to go perfectly down to this line. I'm going to finish all of this face in a Z level toolpath down to this depth. That way, when we flip it over, we've got a good place to part off to, because we want to do the same on this side, but rather than going all the way down to 0.1, to this depth here, we'll go to 0.1, and that will give us a little tab here that we can just snap out. So we may as well do that now, I think, before we do the chamfers. We'll just add another folder, and I'll call this part off prep. And I wonder if we can go ahead and use our nice 4mm from before. I think we could. Our 4mm finishing end mill there, that could probably be alright. Yeah, let's try that. So okay, let's go ahead, insert operation. Let's try a Z level toolpath first. Z level profile steep. Part off prep. We want the 4mm end mill. We want to be on surfacing body. We want a mill finish. So steep only or none. I just put this to none because it doesn't really make sense having steep only to me. I guess it comes in useful in certain cases, but I normally just take this to 1 and to none, sorry, and I don't have many issues. Merge distance, don't worry about that yet. Minimum cut length, also don't worry about that. We're going to set this to millimeters because it's a sharp end mill, and we'll say 0.25 step downs, nothing crazy. And the faces we want to cut are these ones. Okay, that's going to be Z. This is going to be something like 8,500, 1,000, something like that. Our cut level, right, now this is the important bit. So our cut level is going to be this top face for the top range, and our bottom range is going to be this face here. So 5mm deep. You can see it's figured out the cut levels there. Strategy, another important part of this. So our cut order will be depth first. I don't want to do level. I don't want to keep jumping around doing one level at a time. I want to do all of this bit. So we do depth first. We're gonna do yeah, this could be interesting. Just try direct. Let's just see what that gives us. Direct 2 level not allowed. This isn't ideal. Trying to think how else we could get around this now. You know, without having these connecting moves, essentially. It won't allow us to do that because it's not a closed area, it's an open area. It won't allow anything. You have to do transfer rapid. I'm trying to think what other toolpaths would do this nicely. Let's have a little play. Oh, area mill would be ideal, but I don't think you can use sharp tools in area mill. Oh, well, it does say it is allowing me to pick a sharp tool. Maybe I can. This is what I would normally go to, but I didn't think I'd be able to use a sharp tool with it. So similar thing, try Z level zigzag, depth per cut, 4.25. Geometry, these outside faces. Tool axis, that's fine. This will be 8.5. 1500, something like that. Okay. Let's see what this gives us. Seems to be generating. Nice. I think that's an improvement they've made. Being able to use sharp tools. I don't ever really recall being able to use sharp tools, but there we have it. That's yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I want. Other than obviously the transfers. So we quickly sort that out. Just do automatic plane. 5, 3. Okay, nice. That's nice. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So what this will do now essentially is it's finishing this face, but it's also cutting half of the area for the part off. So let's have a quick look at what that's going to leave. Nice. And if I turn off the frame, yep, that looks good to me. Yeah, happy with that. Now it's freed up this area for us to be able to go and put this chamfer on. Okay, onto the chamfers then. Let's turn that frame back on. So this is just going to be, again, an area mill. And it's going to be a steep as well. And the reason why this is the case is because we can go ahead and select all of these chamfers, and with area mill using steep, we can get a nice toolpath that just rolls down them. I'll show you that now. So we're going to use the 4mm ball nose. The finisher. Steep. Yeah, that's fine. Now we want Z level helical. So we can do it in a helical movement, which means it's not going to go back or forth, it'll just go down nicely. Change back to diameter, and we go 3% because we're finishing. Go ahead and select. Could do these in tangent, I think, hopefully. Yeah. Nice. Okay. And I believe... Oh, let's increase this. I believe that should be good. Let's try that. Ooh. Oh, I don't like that. So why is it doing that then? I thought that was going to be good. Yeah, don't like it. I don't like it. Trying to think, how could we improve this? Don't think there is much improving it. Think I'm gonna have to go ahead and do a different one, and that different one is going to be a guided curves again. Oh, hang on. Oh no, I had ball nose selected. I thought I had the end mill selected then. So yeah, ball nose, mill finish, and I'll just have to do the same as I did before, because that's going to give me a nicer toolpath. So the morphing, we're going to do the top face. And note the direction here is important. If I keep this direction that way, this is going to conventional mill it. If we switch it round, it's going to climb mill it. So that one and this one. Okay. Helical from guide 1, 3%. That's all good, that's all good. This is 1400. 14,000 and 2, 5. Okay. Bring this down a touch. It's all good. Set the transfer height. 5. 3. I think this should give us a nice toolpath. Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. Much better. Much better. Now we can do the same thing by instancing that round. Object, transform, rotate around the center. Yeah, okay. And then add the final middle one. A really nice improvement to NX would be being able to have multiple sets of guides. So rather than having to do this in multiple toolpaths, essentially I should be able to do it all of these chamfers in one path, and just have like guide 1, set 1 and 2, guide 2, set 1 and 2. Do you know what I mean? That would be really nice. But this is what we do for the pursuit of a good toolpath. Okay. There we go. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So that's our chamfers done. I can get rid of this toolpath now because that was rubbish. I can get rid of that toolpath because again, that was rubbish. And now, looking at this, the order of this now, I've got all of this, I've got my 4mm ball nose doing all this work, then it stops to break through here for the 4mm end mill, and then the 4mm ball nose comes out. So I can just reorder this a little bit, and I'll put the part off here. So then all of this is done together in the same tool change. You can see the tool change here, this little icon, it's showing you what operations a tool change is going to happen on. Okay, is that all of our surfacing done? We just need to finish these holes now. This up? I think it is. Let's go ahead and add a new folder. And this is going to be reamed holes. I don't know, kind of makes sense to me. And let's see it. Analyze, measure. Yeah, so it's a 6mm H7 hole. I can see that from the radius there. Another nice little tip is if you click the face like this, you've got this little box, you can switch it from radius to diameter if you like that. Yep, so that's what we're aiming for, 6.006. It's quite a standard H7 size, so let's create ourselves a reamer. This is the last bit now. Hole making. Where's the reamer? Reamer. Okay, so the diameter is going to be 6.006. The neck diameter is going to be 6. Hip length is going to be, I don't know, 30mm, something like that. It's probably, oh, sorry, no. I don't know, something like 0.3. Yeah, something like that. Chamfers normally have a little bit like that on there, don't they? The length, let's say 60mm, and the flute length, yeah, 30 is probably about right. Flutes, I don't know, 4? No, 3, aren't they? Only 3 flutes. Okay, and this is going to be tool number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's going to be a 6.006 mil H7 reamer. Okay. And now we just need to add a reaming operation, which we have here, boring and reaming. And we want it to live in the reamed holes. We want to choose our new reamer. We want it to be under the H7 geometry. And the drill method's fine. Okay. Let's check the feature geometry. We want cylinder 2. Yep. That's all good. Machine cycle or single moves, that doesn't matter because that's more relevant for posting, which we're not doing. Geometry is fine, that's fine. Feeds and speeds, so it depends on like if it's a carbide reamer, if it's a high-speed steel reamer, but personally I would be at like for aluminium 100 surface speed. Yeah, that's about right. Maybe a bit fast, maybe like 80 surface speed. And feed per tooth, maybe 0.06. Bit fast, maybe, yeah. 0.04. Seems about right. Maybe a bit slower, I don't know. Yeah, maybe a bit like that. That'd be probably okay. Okay. So the top offset, so from here we know we finished the bottom of this, so it's irrelevant. We'll just do it 1 mil. The bottom offset, so this is interesting because we actually need to go past it, don't we? We need to ream all the way through the part, and we knew it was 9.5 last time, so let's just do 11 because we have that slight chamfer on the reamer. That's all fine. Let's change that to automatic and 5. Smoothing 3. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. One thing that you have to change on reamers is if we go into the feed rate in the more option here, you have the option to change all of the different feed rates attached to this operation. So when you're reaming, you never want to wrap it out of a hole because you're going to bore it, you're going to scorch it on the way out. So what you want to do is here on the retract, let's set that to percentage of cut. And I want to feed out at 200% of the cut. So it's going to be double the feed rate. So it's not rapiding out. It's just going to feed out a little bit faster than normal. Okay. So it's starting above. and reaming all the way through. And that looks good to me. So let's just double check. We'll run this part all the way through simulation. Okay, and let's just make sure we haven't missed any bits. It looks good. I don't see any little missed bits. Yeah, I mean, this lesson has run on for 2 hours, close to. But yeah, I mean, it looks good to me. I think that is our Op 10 complete right there. So in the next video, we're going to go through the second op, which is basically rinse and repeat of the first side, but a little bit simpler. So we're not going to spend too much time going over that. We'll just go through it quite quickly. Maybe could be a challenge, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. Or we do it together. Probably do it together. Alright, well, that is me done for this op. On the next one, if you want to see us finish this part complete, we're going to get that finished on the next lesson. So I'll see you there. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments of this video. Your support is the only reason I do these videos. So yeah, let me know what you think. And if there's anything else that you want me to cover or go over in the future, be sure to let me know. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.